it's Steph from IDRIVEACLASSIC, and I'm back today. We've travelled all the way back to the 60s, one of my favourite decades, to test out this amazing Hillman Minx, all the way from 1966. I cannot wait to show you the car today. So this I've acquired through a friend. He's very kindly lent me this car. I am terrified about driving it because it's so special to him. He's going to tell us exactly why it's so special to him too. But in today's video, we're going to have a look around the outside of the car, hop in, have a look at the interior. I'll talk you through the dash myself. We'll have a chat about what it's like to drive, and I'm also going to tell you which TV programme, and it's an amazing TV programme you've definitely heard of, this car's going to be featured in, and I cannot wait to show you. So let's start by doing my favourite thing that I found on the car, by opening the bonnet, because you're not going to believe how we do it. Guys, I usually show you around the outside of the car first. We talk tech, we talk a little bit about the history of the car, but actually I wanted to show you how we open the bonnet of this car. So as you know, sometimes when we take cars out, we see stuff that's a little bit wacky that you definitely wouldn't do in 2019. And I'm about to show you how we open this bonnet. I've already messed it up 3 times, but let's have another go and see if we can get it right. So come on in. Now down here, you've got your Roots Group badge. So maybe, by the way, with me messing it up so many times, it's not as easy to steal as I think it is. But you see this? So it's hidden to the untrained eye, but I'm going to show you, and I hope I get it right this time. So we go across, we come back. Now as we do it again, we push it right across and we lift the bonnet. And I cannot believe I managed to get it that time. Maybe it's not as easy to steal as I thought it was. Now this was really interesting, and something that I love doing when you talk to owners and they're so passionate about the cars they own is they give you amazing little facts. So you see you've got the 3 triangles here. Well, the car, as we're going to talk about in the video, was made in Coventry, and these represent the 3 spires in Coventry. So when the pilots were coming back after the war, and Coventry, for those of you that aren't aware, was one of the most bombed cities in the UK, purely because it represented manufacturing and all the rest of it. However, these 3 spires were what the pilots of our country looked for, well, for the UK, they looked for as they came back. So this essentially represents the 3 spires, and it's a really nice little homage to Coventry, and also it's so discreet that we might have missed it, and I had to show you guys. The Hillman Minx is the car that you guys keep requesting, so I'm really excited that we've got it on iDRIVEACLASSIC today. Now, if you don't remember the Minx looking quite like this, it might be because you're recalling an earlier model, because the Minx name was first used by Hillman all the way back in 1931 on their pre-war cars, and it was applied to a 30 brake horsepower model, but the name was used all the way through to 1970. Now, the pre-war Minx was actually the first mass-produced car with a fully synchro box, and in the pre-war period there were 3 models released. So they all had little updates, even right down things like optional folding luggage grids, which gave the discerning motorist a little bit more than just a method of getting from A to B. Now, the car most people start to recognise as the Minx, known as the Minx Mark I, was that post-war Minx released in 1945, and like the pre-war version, it still features a side valve engine, and in fact there wasn't much change at all, but you know, there was a lot going on between 1939 and 1945, so I think we can let them off a little bit. And it was only until the point of kind of the Mark III that buyers started to see some real changes. Now, if you're abroad, you might know the Minx that we're now talking about as the Hillman Estate car, the Humber 10, or if you're in New Zealand, the Humber 80. And they ran the post-war Minx from 45 through to 56, and they saw 8 marks overall, with decent changes on each edition, which gave buyers real confidence in both Hillman and the Minx name, which makes it no surprise that they picked the name back up in 1956 to launch the Roots-designed Audax Hillman Minx. Now, for me, this is the Minx I see as kind of the Hillman Minx, and the one that I'm testing today is one of my favourites right at the end, the Series 6. So the Audax Minx was made from 56 through to 67 and saw real progression throughout from the beginning, from things like the engine, which went from a 1390 all the way up to a 1725cc, which is what we'll be testing out today. Now, these cars, like many British cars, were made all over the world, and they were made in the UK, Japan, New Zealand and Australia. And for the buyer who liked a little bit of choice, you could have picked a 4-door saloon, an estate, or even a 2-door convertible. Now, as we mentioned, Japan, they did actually build it under licence, so it was sold as the Isuzu Hillman Minx, and it was sold from 56 through to 64, and they even introduced their own estate car, which they called the Isuzu Hillman Express. Now, the Audax Minx was replaced with the new Minx, so they clearly love that name, and it ran all the way through. They ran it all through, but it was essentially just a slightly lower spec version of the Hillman Hunter. Now, before we head off, I thought I'd also tell you where the Super Minx fitted in. It was originally supposed to sit after the Series 3 as the Series 4, but they then launched it as an independent model. Now, we've had a good look round, so I think it's high time that we had a chat to the owner's son, Kev, and found out exactly why the Hillman Minx is the car that his family will never be getting rid of, because honestly, the story he tells is absolutely fantastic. So make sure you have a listen to what he says, because he tells the story across a few minutes, but honestly, it's probably one of my favourite owner's stories.
Hi, this car it's a car that has got quite a decent family history with it. It's not our family car, but this is the first vehicle that got me interested in cars. My granddad bought one brand new in 1965 from a local garage, and with that I learned how to check oil, put petrol in it, and my granddad always used to call me his little mechanic. I've got to be very careful because I don't want to well up, because I thought an awful lot of my granddad. This particular vehicle, my father bought it in 2005. Since then, we've done quite a bit of work to it. 2 brand new factory wings, a new sill and a partial respray. But the vehicle is largely original. It's 1725, 5-bearing engine, front brake discs. It will do 80 miles an hour on the motorway. Quite happy, keep up with modern traffic. The brakes are very good, the steering's very light, and it does reasonable miles per gallon. This particular example is in Storm Grey, which is an original colour, and it was typical of the time, 60s vehicles. In fact, Audi do a very, very similar colour to it now, if you notice, which is quite bizarre. Why anybody would want a grey car, I have no idea, but clearly they do. This vehicle has been used extensively for weddings, sadly funerals, and an awful lot of filming work. It's got a lot of filming credit to its name. It's done in various productions, complete street furniture, action vehicle. It's been a character car in a film called 71, based on the Troubles in Northern Ireland, so it had Irish number plates on it, etc. The car has had various repairs, as you would imagine, to keep it going. It's a good, reliable car. I would set off absolutely anywhere in it with complete confidence. The last production it was on was in Aberystwyth, and I drove it all the way to Aberystwyth from Huddersfield, which was an epic journey, but the car did it with absolutely no problem whatsoever. The registration number causes quite a bit of amusement because it's P000, which is an Essex registration, and of course it says poo, which merriment by my friends for saying what a SHIT car it is, etc., as you would imagine. The driving back from Aberystwyth, which is a very, very long journey, I had quite a moment going over top of the hills, which was a long drive. I was on my own, no radio, of course, and I thought of my granddad from when I was four years old or whatever, and I remember asking him as a child, why are they called Hillman's granddad? And he said to me with a smile, I'm trying not to well up actually thinking about this, he said, because they're good at going up hills, son. And I went up that top of the hill, and by the top of the hill I was crying and laughing and thinking of my lovely granddad and the moments that we had in this car, or not this particular car, but very much the same sort of vehicle. It's a lovely car. We'll never sell it. It's part of the family. I take my dad to shows in it, to auto jumbles, etc., with complete confidence.
Guys, now we've had a look around the outside of the car, we've had a look under the bonnet, and we've had a brief look inside as well. I wanted to show you how the dash was laid out, and it's that real essence of 50s, 60s beautifully made car, and I just had to bring you inside to show you. So as always, we're going to kind of start over here and we'll work our way over, and I'll show you what we've got. But with the age of the car, it is quite basic, so come on in. Over here we've got our little glove box, and as you can see, it's all just really beautifully put together. Closes really nicely. Just the finish on it is exceptional. Over here we've got our choke. You've got a panel light. Now the panel light switch on like that, so if you've seen a Morris Minor before, it's the same kind of switches, and your panel light will light up all of this over here. Now this here, can you believe, I thought this was just a really nice feature on the dash, you know, just a bit of advertising for Roots Group, but no, this is actually a blanking plate, so you would have had either this or you would have had a clock in its place. Over here you've got your lights, you've got your blower, which is your heater, you've got all your heater controls here, you've got just, oh, I think we've got our ashtray, there we go. Sometimes you like to be very careful when you're using somebody else's car. Now let's pop the wipers on, because I know a lot of you Hub Nut fans love seeing what the wipers are doing, so I'll pop that on there for you. We'll pull that out like that and we'll turn it, we'll pop that back in, and that's your wiper pattern over there. And over here you've got your main control, so essentially you've got your miles per hour, you've got your fuel gauge, and then you've got a heater gauge as well, which looks quite nice for the time. And I'm going to pop it on again because I just want to show you the horn. So I love this, look at this. This is for me real quality workmanship on a car. It's like stuff that you don't see anymore on just a generic normal car. So as you expect, sounds pretty normal, but I just wanted to show you how that works as well. So I'm going to swap that off for now. Now I've got Tom helping me on the camera today. So Tom, I just want to show you the floor. So I'll bring you on in. So you see down here, we have essentially what may look like your 3 normal pedals, but over here you've got a button as well. So that's obviously, you've got your normal lights for your dip, and this is for your main beam as you're driving. So if you drive something more modern, you'll know it's all up here just on your stalks. But back in your older cars, so I've got this in the Morris Minor as well, it's on the floor. But you do, weirdly, you do get really used to it. So what other changes can I tell you about? So I know that Kev kind of briefly mentioned it when he was talking through the car, but one of the interesting features is that as they went through the Minx range, they started updating bits and pieces. So originally column change, but back down into just normal floor changes we've got here. So really simple, you've got normal 4 gears and then you've got reverse, so there's not really much to show you there. But something very interesting is that this is a fully synchro box, which means it would be really nice to drive even when you're stuck in traffic, because if you don't have synchro mesh on first, like you don't do in a lot of things like your Morris Minors and a lot of things that seem to go with the 1098 box, 1098 engine, sorry, if you don't have synchro on first, it is so painful when you're commuting. It's just because you're constantly back in second. So it's going to be really nice to drive today because it's a little bit busy because we're in that weird period between Christmas and New Year. So yes, let's head out on the road. We're going to give this car a drive and see what she's really like. But before we drive anywhere, we've got to start the car and have a listen to the engine. So as always, I'm just going to check that she's in neutral. Got the key over here. Now we're not going to need to pull out the choke because the car's already been running today, so it's warm enough to start without the choke. But usually, if we were starting from cold in the garage, we would go for the choke straight away. So we're going to turn the key. Let's give her a bit of a rest. So we've got the back door open there so you can hear her. As I'm sure you'll agree, that engine sounds really sweet. You can tell that this is a well cared for car. Now, let's definitely start going out on the road and see what she's like to drive. So this for me is exactly what true classic motoring is all about. So this is very kind of, I don't know, it feels of the same era as my Morris Minor, and it's the era that I tell you guys every time I take out a car from like the 50s or the 60s, it's the era that I feel most comfortable with. And you know what? This is a superb car to drive. I think a lot of people think when you see an old car like this that it's going to be quite difficult to drive or it's going to feel quite rickety. But just like the Morris Oxen when we took that out, this feels very well made, and it feels very robust as well. Now, I've never actually seen this car in real life. In fact, I've never seen one at shows or anything, because it's not something that you see, because the shows I tend to go to all seem to be just British Leyland stuff. So this for me was something completely different. originally it had its all metal dash, and then it had, you know, your more generic speedo, whereas now it's moved on to that. So with the Series 6, which is what this is, they tried to really modernise it, and they said, right, you know, let's look at what competitors are doing, let's look at how we can improve the range, improve the car, and so it introduced this speedo here. But actually, I quite like it, and it's very precise. So you tend to find, and if you've got a 60s car yourself, you'll know what I'm talking about, you tend to find the speedo can sometimes be a bit of guesswork, because it gets a bit like this, and people always say, oh, you know, place the cable, grease it up or whatever, and it will sort the problem out, and it doesn't always. But this is absolutely bob on as well, like it's really spot on, and it's very precise when I'm driving it, and it's easy to stop, because as Kev kind of mentioned and alluded to, it does have disc brakes on the front, which was an introduction for the Series 6. And I think that you can really feel it. So you've got the bigger engine, so this sported the biggest engine of the series, so you've got the biggest engine, you've got your front disc brakes, you've got fully synchro box, and for me this represents that idea that a classic that you could drive on the regular, because it's got great visibility. My only complaint would be is that you don't have mirrors, but again, look, it's small fry, you can add mirrors on, you can add on clip-ons, you don't have to be drilling into wings or anything. With the fully synchro box, it makes it easy to drop down into first when you're approaching traffic lights. The disc brakes help you accommodate all the drivers on the road that have absolutely no driving finesse whatsoever in 2019, and it's just all round a really nice car to drive. And just like when I did the Volvos, I came into this with no real expectation, so I don't really, you know, the Roots group is not something I know masses about. I've had to do a lot of reading before I've taken the car out. I obviously knew who Hillman were, because I know what, you know, I know what the Imp is and all the rest of it, but it wasn't something that I knew huge tons about, so I didn't really know what to expect in terms of build quality or finish. And you know what, I have been really impressed. It is an exceptional car, and I don't know if it's just because we've got a good example, so you know, with the fact that it's had minimal work on it, it's only had a sill replaced and 2 wings, no real welding, so it's not a car, you know, that's been massively messed about with. It's not been hugely modified in any way, shape or form. So I guess this is the Minx experience in its truest form as we can get today in 2019, without us pinching one from a museum. So it's quite a privilege really to take out, and so far I'm thoroughly impressed. And I guess the other thing to talk about is just the driving experience in terms of how it feels when you're driving the car, in terms of comfort. So for me, when you take out some cars, the seats are very comfortable, whereas this, so you've got your standard Kangol belt, so you'll notice that it's not like your usual inertia belt that you would get in your more modern car. This is adjustable up, it keeps slipping off my shoulder. But, and I know this probably sounds sexist to some people, it's actually really comfortable to drive as a woman. So when I took out the Triumph Herald, which everybody said I was going to really enjoy as a woman, I was going to find so easy, I actually much prefer this. This feels like it's perfectly, I don't know how to describe it for you, but it feels like it's all perfectly proportioned for me as a woman to drive, because I'm only 5'3", so some cars that I take out, sometimes it's a bit of a chore, because I'm trying to lean forward for things, but everything feels, you know, perfectly proportioned for somebody of my height. Obviously you've got your bench style seats as well, so you could get, I mean, if you were going on a night out, you could get an extra person in, you could get an extra person in the car if you needed to. Probably not legit, but it's just in general, it's the finish on the seats as well is really nice, and just the back support. And I know that seems like a bit of a boring thing to talk about, but with classic cars like this, I think if you're going to invest in something like this, you want the full experience, you want a little bit of comfort, you want a little bit of luxury as well, because some classics sometimes can feel a little bit gung-ho, which I think sometimes puts people off. But I mean, look, we're cruising along now at 40, it's not massively loud in the cabin, it's not uncomfortable at all, there's no shakes, there's no rattles. In fact, I'm really shocked at what a nice car this is. I guess I thought it was going to be kind of middle of the road, maybe comparable to your Morris Minor, but honestly it's street ahead. It is so nice, and it's so responsive when you're driving it as well. So with some of the old cars, like again, I'm kind kind of comparing this to the Morris Minor because that's where my expertise of this era lies, in that you can move your wheel around quite a lot in the Morris Minor, and you can move it like that sort of thing, and you get nothing out of it. Whereas in this, even half an inch movement in the wheel, I'm starting to feel something going on with the car. So it's very responsive for a car of its era, and it's very precise as well. Now, one of the most interesting things is that when they closed the factory that made these, so made down in Coventry, so obviously it got bought out, so Roots Group bought out by Chrysler, Peugeot I believe, and then that kind of translated on, so they looked at the factories, looked at what they were doing. But the factory that made these, the Roots factory, Roots Chrysler factory that made these down in Coventry, was actually one of the most profitable factories in the UK, but it was just a case of, I think they were just trying to amalgamate and save costs where they could, and that's the one they closed. So I don't think it's through any fault of its own that, you know, you don't hear about Hillman anymore. I think it's just a case that they've phased it out, and more's the pity really, because I think cars like this, I mean, people that drive Hillman must obviously think this is fun, but this is just absolutely spot on. And it's a bit like when I took out that Comber van, because I believe that's the Thunder Roots Group as well, that Comber van, again, that was really well made as well. So far, honestly, I'm not going to keep saying it all the way throughout the drive, but I'm really, really impressed. It's totally floored me actually, what a beautiful car this is. Kev's a very lucky man to have the keys to this one. Now, as you guys know, we always do a little bit of filming for the back seat nowadays because it's something that you guys have asked for. So this is me driving this amazing Hillman Minx. Now, if you want to see a little bit more of it, or you're wondering what TV programmes it's coming up in, if you watch The Crown, so as I said, it was going to be something you've definitely heard of. So The Crown on Netflix, which is about the UK royal family. And quite interestingly, well, some of the things that happened at the time, things like the Aberfan disaster. Well, this actual car is going to be in the Prince Charles inauguration episode. So I'm not sure if that's aired yet because I've not caught up with Series 3. So people, do not leave me any spoilers because I don't want to know. It's something I'm going to catch up with over the holidays. Now, I guess we're coming to the end of the video. It's time for me to hand the keys back. But I wanted to give you, because I love giving you a little bit of trivia when we go out driving, is that I wanted to give you a little bit of a fun fact, something interesting to tell your friends, is that when we were looking around the car, and I know that we talked about Kev had changed the front wings of the car, you may have been wondering why. So the Hillman Minx suffers from something called Hillmanitis, which is a term coined by many body shops and mechanics all over the UK during the 50s and 60s, and it was because just under these wings, so both front wings, you've got a little shelf, and with the roads being gritted and mud coming up into the arches and into the wings, it used to sit on those ledges and it would rot it out, so the wings would rot all the way down, and basically it was just known as Hillmanitis. And I just thought I would share that with you because I thought it was quite interesting, and it was also the reason why these two front wings had to be changed, and it's also one of the leading factors in why there aren't many of these cars left, because as time goes on, and at certain points in time, and this will be true for every single classic car out there, apart from, I guess, really, no, even Minis and Beetles and stuff actually have had points where they've been quite cheap. There will have been points in the Hillman life cycle, as it is so far, that doing things like changing wings and stuff, it was just easier just to scrap the car and get something else, or part exit in, or break it down. So that was the fate of a lot of Hillman Minxes. However, there aren't many left, which is not, it's not great, but there are cars all over the world because these were made in Japan, they were made in Australia, New Zealand, somewhere else actually, and obviously Coventry, as we've talked about. So they still exist out there, and thankfully the prices are high enough that they're not totally out of the reach of the normal buyer. So there's one on, I think it's Cara Classic at the moment for £5,000. It's red, and so they are affordable if you're saving up for kind of a midway classic. But even Morris Minors now are starting to cost several £1,000s. So it's a good example, would probably set you back about 5 to 7k, maybe a bit more, depending on the time of the year. So they're now expensive enough that they're staying on the road, but they are cheap enough that if you so wish, you could definitely afford one. So we're coming to the end of the video. It's time for me to hand the keys back because Kev is actually about